Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la. Ya la 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 la. Please join me. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and
Shabbat
welcome.
Shalom.
Glad to see all of you and glad to be here together to welcome Shabbat and to experience a wonderful talk and maybe even some good food if you're staying. To make sure that happens sooner than later, we're going to start right now with the service. If you turn to page 128, please join us in singing Yedid Nefesh. Page 128. Seems loud.
Please join me. Yedid nefesh av harachaman, av harachaman, meshochavdecha eretz zonecha, eretz zonecha, meshochavdecha Eretz zonecha yarutz avdecha kemo hayam. Yedid nefesh av harachaman, av harachaman, meshoch avdecha eretz zonecha.
And on page 138, please join us in Lecha Dodi. As we customarily do, we will sing the first, second, fifth, and ninth stanza. And you can join us when we get to the last stanza in rising and facing the door to welcome the spirit of Shabbat.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat mekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat mekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat mekabela. Lecha אותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 5.
התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Please rise.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Please remain standing as we turn to page 144, and the cantor leads us in the Chatzi Kaddish, the Reader's Kaddish, which will bring us from this introductory section of the service we're completing into the service's main body.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, וילמד דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן מעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
Page 146.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך
And at the top of page 149, we continue thanking God for the wonder of the universe and nature. Please join me. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide.
Your breath guides the sail of the stars.
Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. Page 150.
Ahavat olam bet Yisrael amecha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו נגי יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. And we continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We continue at the top of 157. Please join me. Standing on the parted shores of history,
We still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
Page 158.
Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele, malechutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, zeili, zeili, anu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar ki fad Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
On page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, v'taknenu be'etzah tova milfanecha, v'hoshe'enu lema'an shemecha, v'hagen ba'adenu. Together in the middle. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing.
For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. God, our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim.
Page 162.
V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lahasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lahasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, od hi leolam, od hi leolam. V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lahasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz. V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lahasot לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. And please rise and join me on page 164 as we come to the heart of our service, to our Amidah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Please be seated. And join me as we continue reading together at the top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. And in the middle of page 175, you are with us in our prayer, our love and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, When pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yir'ah na'avod. And at the top of page 177, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Page 178. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amecha Yisrael bechol eit uvechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel and all people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. And we'll continue our prayers with just a few moments of silent prayer and reflection before we come together for our prayer for peace, our Oseh Shalom, on page 180. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, na'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
On page 371 of the Siddur, you can find a Mishaberach for healing, a prayer for our friends and loved ones who could use a prayer for a refuah shlema, a complete healing of the body, but also a healing of the soul. We think especially of Bill Ross, Katie Peltz-Davis, Patrice R., Michelle Jacoby, Catherine Lamb, Bob Radke, Maccabee Ben Avraham, Kathleen Manchero, Al Myers, Jack Marvin, Jim Stillman, Janelle C., Leonore Friedman, Marcia Reese, Lisa Frolkis, Sarah Friedman, David Goldenholtz, Sarah Bat-Bessie Veben, Jennifer Houston, Faivel Ben Rochalea, David Warner, Linda Roberts Greenblatt, Neil Pinsky, Lular Hughes, Didem Eater, Michael Ross, Marilyn and Michael Stillman, William Frankie, Joseph Marcus, Mike Johnson, Doug Lewis, Susie Garrison, Deidre Tischberg, Bracha Bat Miriam, Bob Neubauer, Madeline Para, Martha Ross, Yosef Ben Lily Vanatan, Jean Peerless Strauss, Sarah Byam, Sandra Stark, Howard Tolkien, and Jeffrey Berkman. If there are others of whom you are aware, such as Carol Logan, Elna Hickson, Ken Parks, the Crampton Yonke family, Ramona Bauman, and Barbara List.
Mark Griffin.
Thank you. Well, anybody else? We generally don't ask for names. But Lloyd, you opened the door. So if there is someone else you would like us to acknowledge as we say the prayer, please share their names right now, and do so if you know they don't mind being outed in such a setting. We continue with this modern setting of the Mishperach.
Sheberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
For those of you following the Jewish calendar closely, you may know that this past week we marked Yom HaShoah, the day in memory of those who died in the Holocaust. And it is coming up this coming week, Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, Memorial Day for Israelis fallen soldiers and those who were victims of terrorism. And Yom HaAtzmaut, immediately following on its heels, which is the day of celebrating independence. Why do I mention this? Well, Some of you know that last night there was a tornado siren test scheduled, but they had to cancel it because there were tornado watches and warnings going on. So I think they're going to have to move that up a few weeks next year to take care of that. I mention it because one of the features of Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom HaShoah is this air raid sirens that go off coordinatedly in the entire country. And everybody in Israel stops their cars and gets out of their cars and stands next to their cars for this entire period of time. I saw a wonderful piece of film today, which was taken inside of an airplane, where half the airplane got up and stood silently. I mention this because that siren's going to go off in a couple of minutes, because they just moved the test till today, and I just wanted to be clear on that. We are beyond fortunate to be hosting the Roth family, Uriah, and his wife, Moria, and their kids, Nadav, Roni, and Yuval. Uriah will explain to you what he's been doing here the last few years in terms of building relationships between and connections between Jews in Milwaukee and the state of Israel and the people of Israel. He had the real disadvantage of having to do this during COVID, which I think was an additional challenge no one thought particularly was coming. He has, in his time, served as a shliach in Baku, Azerbaijan, Rome, India, Southeast Asia, and before here, Los Angeles. So to say that he is well-traveled, and that was all within 4 years? No, that was over a period of time. Anyway, without further ado, I only have stuff about him, but I know that Moria has an equally distinguished CV. So I'd like to invite both of them up to share with us tonight on the eve, Ki'ilu, of the day of the days, the Yamim.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So first of all, thank you, Rabbi Cohen. Thank you, Cantor Newman. And thank you for having us. I know there's some of you here who maybe heard me like once or twice, or Rachel 37 times, or more. So I apologize in advance. So, and I also want to really want to thank Bobby Rector for having us here, and also Allison, my colleague, who's been a pleasure working with her in the last 4 years. I'm happy to be here. I had a chance to be here, I think it was last year, and I had a few opportunities to speak at Sinai with the congregation on Zoom, so thank you for having me again.
Shabbat Shalom, I'm Moria. I didn't speak to a lot of you. When I speak to people, they're usually shorter than you. I teach at the day school, at Milwaukee Jewish Day School. This is my 4th year here. My job right now, it's very typical, is to talk a little bit more of the kind of the personal journey of going on shlichut. And I kind of wanted to start sitting here now for this beautiful service. I felt, a lot of it felt very unfamiliar and very different from how I experienced Shabbat services in my life, mainly in Israel, mainly in Orthodox communities. And I feel a lot of the story of going on shlichut, and as you've heard, it's not our first time, it's about this. It's about becoming a stranger, becoming a foreigner, and looking for the things that are familiar. Oh, I know this is in Hebrew, this is a melody that I've used before, and finding your connections. And this choice of going on shlichut, a lot of people are asking, so why do you go on shlichut? It's really a choice of I was lucky enough to be like a second generation born to Israelis. Uriah, his dad was born in Europe, and a lot of Israelis are immigrants. And now we're at the stage where like finally we have like second generation and third generation, and you choose to kind of pick up your roots and go somewhere else and be a stranger. And then in a matter of months, we will be doing that again and kind of become strangers in our own home again. So it's not easy. And it is a question of why do you do it when we're not like pursuing a high-tech career or something like that. I think for both of us, because this is our second time around, and we've been also individually before that in Shlichut or in different Jewish communities. So one thing that I think we've really learned from our first time going on Shlichut, it is really eye-opening and mind-opening to kind of realize that everything that you grew up with, knowing that this is Judaism, and this is what a Jewish synagogue looks like, or a Jewish community looks like, and this is what it is, it doesn't have to be only this. And that was a really mind-opening experience for me. When we were shlichim in Los Angeles when we had a baby, and then we had another baby born in Los Angeles. She's an American citizen. And then we moved back to Israel, and we already had in mind that we would probably want to do something like that again when our kids are older, because we felt that we want them to have that kind of experience too. The experience of, being a stranger, realizing that there is more than one way to do things, and getting to know people who are different from them, and growing up with those connections, with those Jewish connections. But when we were talking about it as grown-ups, it still didn't mean that our kids were very happy about it. When we told our kids that we're going on Shlichut, 4 years ago, our oldest kid was 9. They were 9 and 6, and the little one, who didn't really know what we're talking about, they were very upset. I think we really remember this day when our son was so pissed off that he threw his glasses up in the air, and we had to run around on a Friday when everything was closed to find someone who could fix his glasses for him. And they were really, really unhappy, because for them it was really like they are Israelis, and that's everything that they know. And I think now, almost 4 years later, they are going to also have a challenging time going back. But I think what they picked up along the way is so important. And I really think that, I hope and I think that this will be a life-building experience for them. And I think they see a lot of it now, even if they didn't see it back then. I think being able to kind of like pick things from both cultures was very, very important for us as a couple and as a family.
Okay. All right. So maybe I'll just say a few words about, my professional or, my work here in Milwaukee. In a sense, I'm an Israeli shaliach emissary, which is, people always think that, am I here to do advocacy for Israel? And I always say, you have a diplomat, you have the Council General, you have people, doing it. Usually what I do, to my opinion, is just engagement. It's about trying to find conversation, people care, and try to engage in conversation in every opportunity that I have. And the thing is, and I think most of you been to Israel and you know a little bit about Israel, there's always another challenge. Even when it comes to conversation or engagement, Israel don't give you any, not even 1 week where think about it, just professionally, you prepare something, a presentation, or you want to talk about anything, you need, even as an Israeli, you need at least a week or two to prepare for something. Here on the calendar, sometimes I have to do it 3-4 months in advance. Who would have thought about that? But even to prepare something for next week or 2 weeks from now, I have no idea what's going to happen. No one here, even me, that have been doing it for a long time, no one is actually, there's no one who's like Mr. Israel. You're an expert. You know none of us know what's going to happen. We barely know what happened before. And the thing is, the only thing we know is like to find that connection and to see what people think about. Usually it's about their own Jewish identity and how how the Israel part is also part of their life. And I have to say, like, I'm thinking about even our previous shlichut. When you think about, like, even in LA, there's always something. There's either an operation in Gaza or there's something going on. Also in Israel, we love elections. We do it every year. It's kind of a hobby. So like every time there was just election or there's election about to happen. So there's always a constant conversation. And I feel like, and I thought like until, for like maybe the first 2 or 3 years, there was like a few opportunities, like things were like a little bit maybe settled down, and now there's a new government, which is also not always a lot of fun. And the last few weeks also, it's like all of a sudden again, like what are we talking about? How do we talk about it? How do I speak with young adults about Israel? And you used to say like, oh, those who already drink the Kool-Aid, that's how you say it, right? And like even those who already drink it, and especially here in Milwaukee, they're like drunk from the Kool-Aid for 50 years, and it's not enough because now there's a new conversation. And what's going on right now with democracy and with protest and like and the new government, and all of a sudden those conversations, those engagements are happening again and again. In a sense, you can be on shlichut for 20 years and you're probably not going to have one boring day on this job. But the truth is, at the end of the day, and I would say this, professionally, even to do it more than 4 years, it's really it's not great. Because at the end of the day, after 4 years, like I lived in Wisconsin, I lived in Milwaukee for 4 years. It's like, I know I lived in Israel most of my life, but after 4 years, you feel local. You no longer have the perspective of someone who understands Israel, who knows better, or even just brings something new to the conversation. It is, after a while, you understand, okay, I know it's insane, but like when you're there, it's a different perspective of insanity. Like you can understand because you figure it out. Like people think, oh my God, what's going on in Israel? But when you're in Jerusalem, when you're in your little bubble, wherever you are, it's like, no, but my life is fine. I know what I'm doing. I know where I am. I know what I'm doing. Maybe I have to go. I want to go to a protest every Saturday night, but Sunday to Friday, my life at the end of the day is just the same struggles. It's the same day-to-day life. When you live in the North Shore of Milwaukee for 4 years, at the end of the day, you lose this little bit of like connection or understanding, and you start to feel like, or your perspective has become pretty similar to people around you. And at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter if the Jewish community here in Milwaukee or any other Jewish community, everyone say like, we always encourage diversity and we have people from, even the Jewish community of Milwaukee, and I'm stirring the pot here again, I know, the Jewish community here is not that diverse. It's not like people here, if I'll do the elections here at Sinai or Emmanuel or CBINT, or like the results will be, so different. At the end of the day, people do usually hang out, or people surround you actually have very similar opinions or perspectives just like you. When you've been in shlichut for 4 years, you feel like you're losing touch with what's exactly going on in Israel. And we're come to this point when we actually need to make a decision about our future. And I think not even for one moment we had any doubt that we are going back to Israel, we're going back to Jerusalem. I think I was asked 376 times in the last month, like, are you actually going? Are you going back? Are you really going? Why are you going back? And sometimes I need like that moment to to understand. When I think about the future of our family or the future of myself, I think Israel is our home. My parents were immigrants. This is not actually what I want for me or for our family. Yeah.
And I want to add, I think we've been asked a lot, really, you're going back now? it's so hard in Israel now, and who knows what's going to happen with democracy and the government. It's not even just here. Israelis actually ask that too. Really, you're coming back now? Just stay there. It's so much better. And it is, after the last elections, and what we've been hearing and seeing in the news and from friends about Israel, it does feel sometimes like, really going back now? How can we do that? But I agree a lot with what Uriah said about you don't get the full perspective when you're here, and I'm sure you can't even get what it's really like until you're there. But also another thing that I really feel about Israel, it's always hard, and it's always crazy, and we have a very short-term memory. We go through these times and we forget, and then we go through them again. And things also change very quickly. I mean, really, who knows? Maybe by the time we're back in Israel in 4 months, there will be another government. You never know. Things change very quickly, and it's always crazy. And once you make the choice that this is your home and this is how you want to live your Jewish life, then there's no wrong or right time to go back home.
I do want to mention that I think Milwaukee was really good to us as a family. For me individually, I feel like, I'm a little bit Milwaukeean. Some would say that I'm too much of a Milwaukeean. Depends who you ask. If you look at my everyday life, I think I embraced most of the local culture. Or someone called it culture. Yeah, most of the local culture. No, I'm kidding. It's been, I think my everyday life at the end of the day does look very similar to people around me. I will say that I feel like Milwaukee is actually probably an easier community to be a shaliach at. There's a new shlicha that is coming in a few months, and I think and I already started a conversation with her, and I feel like at the end of the day, there are some other communities that there are bigger challenges in the everyday life. I feel like the biggest difference, I feel like in Milwaukee, first of all, I told her, they don't know you, but they already like you. They already love you. It doesn't, you have to prove them wrong for them not to like you. And I said it to I'm not the only shaliach here. There's another shlicha at UWM. There are shinshinim who are a gap year program, and I always tell whoever before they come to Milwaukee, I always tell them this is a huge deal. This is a huge advantage, and the fact is, I'm the 19th shaliach here in Milwaukee, and there's been a shlichut here since 1967 consecutively, and it's not something you can take for granted. But at the end of the day, I feel like a success of a shaliach, a success of a shlichut, is the fact that there is someone after you. And it's not, in every community right now, there's always a debate whether there should or should not be another family. Because a lot of communities, I'm one of maybe 400 shlichim in North America, and 85% of them are not shlichim with families, with kids. It's usually much more expensive. Most of the shlichim that are out there in the community, either they are 18, 19-year-old gap year programs, or 22 to 28-year-olds who are here either before college or after college. It's much easier to bring either a young couple before kids or just single man or woman, and they do the job. They work in the community. But I think for Milwaukee, the sense of what it means to have a family here, I think that's, and was always the case. There was always, it's not just 19 shlichim, it's 19 families of Israelis that has been here, and most of them are still in touch with the community, and a lot of them, here and there, whenever they have a chance, they visit their friends and family here, so that's a huge deal. This is a huge advantage of being part of it. And I'm not even taking for granted the fact that the shaliach is here. It's right now, we are here at Sinai talking about Israel from the Bima on a Friday night, that there is something called Israel Night in Congregation Sinai. It's not here in Reform Shuls here in Milwaukee. it's obvious that you talk about Israel, that you welcome the new shaliach. I have to tell you the truth. Like we're all talking to the other shlichim. I don't take this for granted at all. There's not a lot, but there's enough congregation here in North America that it's not that they just upset about what's going on in Israel. They're not willing to have a conversation about Israel. And that's the new challenge. It's not even about the debate, like someone will call up like what Israel is doing. And it's not about the Palestinians and the occupation. Right now, for a lot of congregations, it's the topic of Israel is not on the table. And the biggest, I think, challenge for us or for me and my colleagues, it's about to keep the subject still to be part of the conversation. And that's what I'm leaving here in 2023. To speak about Israel that was, taken for granted for a century. I mean, I know Israel is over in 75. People were talking about the land of Israel way before that. But even to talk about Israel now, within the Jewish community of North America, it's not something that would say, oh, pretty easy. Oh, for sure, they'll invite me. Oh, I'll be part of that. Everything is part of the way we struggle with it every day.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I kind of wanted to finish with, I don't do Israel engagement like Uriah on a daily basis. I teach Hebrew. I probably teach it with an Israeli accent for sure. But when I first came into the school, it was kind of obvious that I'm the Israeli teacher, and it came with a certain package, and it was also important for me, I'm the shlicha, I'm going to bring Israel to the classroom, and things like, Yom HaAtzmaut that is happening next week, and the Jewish Day School celebrates that. It's a big celebration, and it was obvious that this is a job of the Israeli teacher. And this is what I need to do, and this is what I need to bring in. Didn't happen in the end because it was during COVID. It happened online. But what I mean is, for a long time, it was obvious that there are Israelis in the school. This is what they're going to do. This is the Israelis' job. And I think, and this really connects me to what you said. In the end, Israel is not mine and not your. It's not ours. It's yours. It's those connections. It's important to you to have a shaliach ir. And the local community connection to Israel, this is what's important. And I was really, really happy that next week when we're going to be celebrating Yom HaAtzmaut in school, I actually have nothing to do with that. I'm very free on that day, and our 8th graders are organizing this day, and the teacher who's supporting them is their Jewish studies teacher, who is not an Israeli, is an American, and I think that's such a better tradition to leave behind. It is not the Israelis' job, it is something that belongs to the local community.
Do we have time for a question? No, it's just a sermon, right? No, what time is it? 7? Oh, we have 5 minutes. 7. Anyone wants to ask a question here? They always tell me to leave time for Q&A. Actually, no one told me this time, but I usually do that. So we're still here. We have 15, 20 minutes until the beginning of Shabbat. Lo, you want to?
I always do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm here.
It isn't a question.
Okay.
It's really a sense of appreciation. And this is, and some of us have traveled and have been in numerous Jewish communities, but there's a different aura in Milwaukee. The Zionist history of Milwaukee, the whole package of what the Federation represents, and the necessity that we feel as part of a community to have someone here that has that responsibility and performs it as you have extraordinarily well is something that fulfills our life. And so, this is one of the few opportunities opportunities we get to say thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd. I really appreciate it. And with that, I actually reminded me that I do want to end with a little bit to talk about what's going to happen this week in Milwaukee. There are about 17 events that are happening at the same time. And no, just 6. But I do want to mention 3 of them very quickly, because on Monday night at 7 p.m. at the JCC, our Yom HaZikaron ceremony, Bobby is the co-chair, and I have to say our ceremony this year, we have such a phenomenal speaker coming tonight. He's on his way, maybe he's already here, we'll see. Yoram Eshet, Professor Yoram Eshet, who actually lost his memory during the war. He was severely injured, and then, what? What did I say? I just during Yom Kippur War in 1973, and he will share his story about how he recovered from the war. This is 50 years of the Yom Kippur War, 1973 to 2023. That's our theme for this year, 7 o'clock on Monday. On Tuesday, the next day at 6:30 p.m. at CBINT, we have the Israeli-Canadian journalist Mati Friedman coming and to talk to us a little bit. We call it this year, we honor, then we understand, then we celebrate. He's on the understanding part, trying to talk about what's going on in Israel right now, trying to explain to us the political climate and to bring his own perspective. He's a journalist of Jerusalem Post and the Times of Israel. And the third and last event is on Sunday, the Walk for Israel on April 30th at 2 p.m. And right after we walk, of course, we eat. So at 2 p.m. is the walk, and 3 p.m. we have a celebrity Israeli chef that is coming all the way from Tel Aviv. His name is Gil Chovav. He will be here, and he will share. We're going to cook all from Thursday. He's going to do his thing, and we're going to have we have a chance to taste. The flavor of Israel is coming here to Milwaukee. If you don't like spicy, don't come. No, you can come, still come, but that's spicy in a sense, but it's going to be amazing. So Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, whoever is able to make it to any of those events, please come.
And one last thing while we're on it is May 5th, I believe, is the Kabbalat Shabbat. The new Shlicha is coming to Sinai.
All right. May 5th, right, Friday. Avner? All right. I forgot. I said there's a lot of, Sunday, 10 a.m. here with one-on-one with Yoram Eshet. Sinai will get the chance to see him in person here. Seda?
So which restaurant is this chef from?
What? He's not. He's from TV, from primetime TV in Israel. He used to have various of shows about like Israeli food. Now he's like kind of retired. He's a little bit older. He retired, and all he does, he just goes from one community to another and try to teach people how to do like real Israeli cooking. So. Yes.
And he is a great grandson of Eliezer ben Yehuda.
That's true. He's the great grandson of Eliezer ben Yehuda. So everything he does, he always tried to do it in Hebrew, because he's half Yemenite, half Ashkenazi. So his whole thing is about cooking in Hebrew. His English is excellent, but he always tried to, like, when you'll see when you get whatever you're gonna get, if it's the meatballs, it's gonna be ktzitzot. So whatever you're gonna get the food in Hebrew. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. All right? Toda rabba, Shabbat Shalom.
If you see them make an early escape, they are Shomrei Shabbat and are watching the clock. So we are going to conclude services in just a moment. I want to offer on all of our behalves a prayer for Israel at 75. This was written by a friend, Rabbi Naomi Levy, and this is it. God, our light, Israel at 75 is a miracle before our eyes. Zion weeps tears of gratitude and joy. Her children are flourishing, her cities teeming with promise and innovation. We marvel at this tiny nation, ancient and new. Jerusalem's holy golden stones safe beneath the Iron Dome. There is much to be thankful for, yet our hearts can't help but ache for all the sacrifice, all the precious lives lost to terror and war. Grieving parents whose children are no more. Send comfort, O God, and blessings and strength. Spread your shelter of peace over Israel, over all who live there. Protect the men and women who defend the land. Hear their prayers. Bring peace, God. Let it rain down from the heavens like a mighty storm. Let it wash away all hatred and bloodshed. We pray for the day when the sound of sirens will give way to the songs of celebration. Let the skeptics roll their eyes. A 2,000-year hope will never die. Guardian of Israel in these fragile days of protest and unrest, fill Israel's leaders with humility and wisdom to protect democracy and justice. So long as there is breath within us, our people must speak out with all their might to defend what is right. Prophecies of old can still come true. A psalm on David's lyre still soothes. The fire the Maccabees lit still burns. Our Jewish heart still yearns. We remember the hope, the lamb, and the lion, all of us, dreaming of Zion. Bless Israel with peace, God. Please, God. And together we can say, Amen. We are going to move to complete the service with the Aleinu, which you can find on page 586 of the Siddur. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
The mourner's Kaddish is on page 598 of the Siddur. This Shabbat we think of Jimmy Ansfield, Natalie Winowich, Carol Ann Willems, and Tom Yanni, all of whom died during the past month. The following, who are members of our congregation, saying Kaddish for them in the year following the death: Victor Robb, Dr. Hermes Hoffman, Nick Winowich, Leanne Borkovitz, Tom St. John, Morty Blutstein, Barbara Wyman, Ralph Gorin, Edith Lenk, Susan Siegel, Don Polachek, Bev Colton, Brian Spring, Ruthie Zabotsky, Jay Aronoff, Alan Rieselbach, Esther Stein, Tiny Arnold, Rosemary Bloom, Elmer Gary Martin, James Goodman, Jane Goldberg, Bobby Driggett, Evie Garfinkel, Judy Solinsky, Brian Robert Ellis, Janet Joyce Meister, Rosalie Kahn, Harry Wallace, and Ted Roth. And those whose yahrzeit falls on this week: Brian James Adair, Morris Bornstein, David Fishman, David ben Avram Shlomi, Morris Friedrich, Janet Greenebaum, William Levy Harris, Phil Horowitz, Mary Kripke, Anna Lowasser, Irene Lebed, Marie McPherson, Ethel Marshall, Friedel Pearson, Abe Polland, Molly Resepper, James Schulhoff, and Pearl Schulhoff. If there's anyone here who is mourning the recent passing of a friend or loved one, or observing the yahrzeit anniversary of a loved one's death, I would ask you, if you're comfortable doing so, please sharing those names aloud with us at this time. Thank you. We continue with Kaddish.
Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'isman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei amaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach, v'yit pa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei d'kudasha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen.
May the source who makes peace in the highest of heavens also enable us to learn how to make peace here on earth. And may God share with those in mourning a measure of comfort and consolation. And together we say,
Amen.
Please remain standing and turn to page 570. We are in that period of time between Pesach and Shavuot in which we count off the days, originally for agricultural reasons, and then later for historical reasons. This was the amount of time it took to get from the shores of the sea to Mount Sinai for the giving of Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer.
Amen.
Hayom shisha asar yom shehem shnei shavuot u'shnei yamim lahomer.
Today is the 16th day of counting the Omer, which are 2 weeks plus 2 days. We thought we would end the service tonight with the singing of Hatikva, which you can find on page 578 of the Siddur.
It's on 678.
678, sorry.
And please join me. Kol od balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia, O Lord, tikvateinu, hatikva bat shnot alpayim, liyotam chofshi be'artzeinu eretz
Zion, Yerushalayim, Liot am chofshi be'arseinu, Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim.
Please be seated. And someone is giving some announcements. Who might that be?
Shabbat Shalom. We are grateful for the contributions made this week to our Sinai community in memory of Jimmy Ansfield, Natalie Winowich, Anna Lassauer, Pearl Schulhoff, Molly Rezepper, and Philip Horwitz. Join us for the following upcoming programs. Join Rabbi Cohn for Shabbat Vayinafash tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. in the Worship and Learning Space for a special Shabbat morning prayer drawing from mindfulness practices such as meditation. Sinai Israel Connection and Milwaukee Jewish Federation present Professor Yoram Eshed Alkalai, thank you. This Sunday, 10 a.m. here in person at Sinai. Women of Sinai Appreciation Brunch is coming up on Sunday, April 30th at 10 a.m. at Congregation Sinai, and please RSVP as soon as possible, by Sunday morning preferably. And Sonas y Saboras, Sounds and Flavors, that is coming up on Saturday, May 6th at 7 p.m. here at Sinai. This is going to be a fabulous evening that's featuring two bands, and I'm not going to do a good job on their names. We have Fusion Flamenco and Grupos Cantos del Sur. So, cannot say enough good things about this event coming up. There's a lot of advertisement out in the lobby, and feel free to reach out to myself, to Ramona, to Jen, to Mike, anyone, to Gordy if you're interested in hearing more. Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see you all inside.
Thank you so much. The blessing for the lighting of candles is on page 120. If you'd like to join in, please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Page 123 is the Friday evening Kiddush, and please join us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikohamin, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uv'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim.
And please join us in a motzi when we are up. Another homemade. When we are done with the motzi, please join us inside. If you're coming to dinner, go to dinner. There's some other things outside on the table for those who may just be need a little pit stop before they go elsewhere. Feel free to get something there. And as always, if you could take a moment on your way into the foyer for the oneg and for dinner, please find somebody here who you do not recognize and don't know, and introduce yourself to said person so that we can continue to fulfill our aspirations of being a warm and welcoming place.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
Why, thank you. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
That's good. I think I got a raisin in there.